My name is Lee Vance. I am 32 years old. 17 minutes before the state electrical board called my name, my mother leaned close to my ear and said, "Tyler needs this renewal more than you need a little certificate. Be useful for once." Then she took my father and walked out of the licensing hall. They were supposed to watch me receive the master electrician license I had spent 11 years chasing. Instead, they drove across town to my brother's failed inspection and told everyone I had abandoned the family company. When they came back 38 minutes later, their 2 seats in the front row were gone. A state investigator was sitting in one. My grandfather's attorney was sitting in the other. My father started yelling before he even knew who they were. "Those are Vance family seats," he said. "Move." The investigator looked up from her folder and said, "Mr. Vance, that is exactly why I am here. If you have ever been told your big day could wait because someone louder needed attention, you already know why I stayed quiet. Because I had something better than an argument. I had 11 years of forms, signatures, withdrawal notices, inspection logs, and 1 page from my grandfather's will that my parents thought I would never find. And by the end of that meeting, the same board they tried to use against me would read their own paperwork back to them. I grew up in Vance Electric, which sounds nicer than it was. It was a family electrical company in Hudson County. 4 vans, a warehouse with a roll-up door, a front office that smelled like coffee, dust, and printer toner. My grandfather, Arthur Vance, started it in 1978 with 1 toolbox and a used ladder. By the time I was 10, the company handled apartment buildings, small factories, city maintenance jobs, and school gym renovations. My father, Paul, inherited the company when Grandpa got sick. My mother, Marlene, ran the office. My younger brother, Tyler, ran nothing, but everyone talked like he was born with a hard hat on his head. I was the one who actually liked the work. At 9, I could sort wire nuts by size faster than most apprentices. At 12, I knew the difference between a service panel and a subpanel. At 14, I spent Saturdays sweeping the shop and labeling breakers because I liked the neatness of it. I liked that electricity did not care who smiled the biggest at dinner. It cared where the current went. It cared if the connection was real. Tyler hated the shop. He hated early mornings. He hated ladders. He once asked if ground wire was only needed outside. He was 17. But Tyler was the son. My father had 1 sentence for that. He said it at cookouts, at job sites, in the office, and across our kitchen table. A license belongs to the family. The first time he said it to me, I was 15. I had just won a regional skills competition through my high school trade program. The prize was a tool bag and a trip to the state finals. My instructor, Ms. Warren, called my parents herself. She told them I had the highest practical score in the district. My mother promised she would come. My father said, "Of course, we will be there." That morning, Tyler said he had stomach pain. My mother gasped like he had been stabbed. My father grabbed his keys. I stood in the kitchen in my trade school polo, holding the tool bag I had packed the night before. "We have to take him to urgent care," Mom said. I said, "The finals start at 10. Dad said, "Lee, don't be selfish. Your brother could be seriously sick." Tyler ate a breakfast sandwich in the car. I took the bus to the competition. I placed second. Ms. Warren drove me home because my parents never came back. Tyler had indigestion. My mother posted a photo of him on Facebook with the caption, "Scariest morning, but our boy is okay." She never mentioned my medal. That was how it started, or maybe that was just the first time I wrote it down. I kept a notebook in my nightstand. Blue cover, spiral binding, nothing dramatic, just dates. May 7, 2009. State finals, Tyler urgent care, no one came. November 18, 2010. Honor roll breakfast. Dad took Tyler to look at trucks. June 14, 2012. Trade school certificate night. Mom said Tyler needed help picking a suit for senior pictures. I did not know why I wrote it all down. I think some part of me knew that if I did not make a record, the house would swallow the truth and leave me with only a bad feeling. Bad feelings are easy for families to deny. Dates are harder. I graduated from high school in 2012 with a trade certificate and a scholarship to the county technical college. My parents came to that ceremony, but they left before my name was called because Tyler's girlfriend had a flat tire. She was parked 3 blocks from our house. My father still left. Ms. Warren was there. She clapped so loudly I could hear her from the stage. Afterward, she found me by the exit and said, "Lee, you have the hands for this work. Do not let them make you an office girl if you want to be in the field." I laughed because that sounded impossible. Vance Electric was my family company. My father always said I would be part of it. I did not understand yet that he meant useful, not respected. I started as an apprentice at 18. Not officially, at first. My father said the paperwork was too much red tape and that I should learn the family way before dealing with the state. The family way meant I did warehouse counts, invoice chasing, coffee runs, parts pickup, drywall cleanup, and every bad crawlspace job no one else wanted. Tyler came in 2 mornings a week and sat at the front desk eating chips while Mom told vendors he was learning the business from the top down. I learned from the bottom up. I learned how to pull wire without tearing my palms open. I learned how to stand on a ladder for 3 hours without locking my knees. I learned how to read old building plans where half the circuits were mislabeled. I learned how to keep my mouth shut when men asked if my father knew I was holding a drill. By 21, I had more field hours than Tyler had work shirts. That was when I asked my father to sign my apprenticeship verification. He looked at the form, then at me. "Why are you rushing?" he said. "I'm not rushing. I have the hours." Tyler is still figuring out his path. What does that have to do with my hours? He put the pen down. A license belongs to the family. There it was again. I said it would have my name on it. He smiled like I was a child who had mispronounced a word. Names are paperwork. Family is the point. He signed, but he signed it 3 weeks late. I missed the spring deadline for my journeyman exam by 2 days. My mother said, "There is always fall." There was not always fall. In August, I got a letter from the state board saying my application had been withdrawn. I stared at it in the hallway outside our apartment. Withdrawn, not rejected, withdrawn. I took the letter to Mom because she handled office mail. She barely looked up. "You probably checked the wrong box." I didn't withdraw it. "Lee, you're always so defensive." Dad came in from the shop and asked what was going on. I showed him the letter. He sighed. "Maybe the state knows you are not ready." I said, "The state did not say that. It says someone withdrew it." He held out his hand. I did not want to give him the letter, but I did. He folded it once and put it in his back pocket. "I will call them," he said. He never did, or at least he never told me what they said. I took the exam the next spring, 8 months later than planned. I passed on the first try. No one in my family came to the certificate pickup. My mother said Tyler had a migraine. My father said he needed to stay with him. Tyler posted a photo that afternoon from a batting cage. I still have the screenshot. That became proof beat number 1, before I even knew I was building a ladder. At 22, I was a licensed journeyman. At 23, I was running small jobs because the older guys trusted me. At 24, I was fixing Tyler's estimates before they went to clients because he kept undercounting labor and overpromising schedules. My father called that helping your brother grow. I called it unpaid management. When I pushed back, Mom said, "Lee, your brother carries the name. You carry the tools. Both jobs matter." That sentence sat in my chest for years. Your brother carries the name. You carry the tools. If you are watching this, and your family has a sentence they use to make unfairness sound reasonable, you know how fast it can get under your skin. By 2018, I wanted out. I applied for a foreman position at Hartwell Controls, a bigger contractor with benefits, union jobs, and actual HR. I did not tell my parents until I had an interview. I was 24 and tired of begging to be treated like an employee instead of a spare part. The interview was on a Thursday at 9 a.m. At 7:10 that morning, Dad called. "Emergency at Maple Street," he said. "Panel is down. Tenant has oxygen equipment. Get there now." I said, "I have my interview." This is life safety. That phrase worked on me. Of course it did. I drove to Maple Street. There was no emergency. The panel was fine. The property manager looked confused when I walked in. He said Tyler had called and asked for a courtesy check because Dad wanted eyes on it. I missed the interview. Hartwell would not reschedule. That night, Tyler got drunk at dinner and said, "You should have seen your face when Dad called. You looked like a firefighter." Mom kicked him under the table. I looked at her. She looked away. That was the first time I wondered if these were not accidents. The second time came the next year. I registered for my master electrician prep course. It cost $1,850. I paid with my own money. 12 Saturday classes, required code updates, practice exams. I kept the receipt in my glove box because I did not trust the office filing cabinet anymore. On the third Saturday, my instructor, Mr. Delgado, pulled me aside. "Lee, the office says your tuition was refunded." "What?" "The registration was canceled on Monday. They said you called." I did not call. He showed me the printed note, canceled by caller. Caller verified address and last four of payment card. Only 3 people had that card number. Me, the bank, and my mother, because she had borrowed it the month before to order parts when the company card maxed out. I paid again, this time in cash. I finished the course. I did not say anything at home because I still had no proof that would hold, just a printed cancellation note and a bad feeling. But I wrote it down. October 5, 2019. Prep course canceled by caller. Mom had card number. That became proof beat number 2. Then Grandpa died. Arthur Vance had been sick for 3 years. He had lung problems from old job sites and a heart that did what it wanted. He lived in a small ranch house behind the warehouse. Even after my father took over, Grandpa came to the shop every morning at 6. He drank black coffee, checked the job board, and asked me what I was learning. He never asked Tyler that. 2 weeks before he died, he called me into his little office. It had a metal desk, a cracked leather chair, and a wall calendar from a supply house that had gone out of business in 2006. He handed me a brass key tag, number 14. "This opens the old plan cabinet," he said. "Why are you giving it to me?" "Because you are the only one who still looks at paper before touching wires." I smiled. He did not. "Lee, if anybody tells you that you are less than Tyler in this company, remember who shows up before daylight." I said, "Dad says Tyler will grow into it." Grandpa made a sound in his throat. "Plants grow. Boys with excuses just get taller." That was the last real conversation we had. He died on a Tuesday morning in November 2019. My father cried at the funeral. My mother cried louder. Tyler gave a speech about legacy even though he had skipped Grandpa's last 6 Sunday visits. I sat in the second row with the key tag in my pocket. The will reading happened at the attorney's office 2 weeks later. I was not invited. Dad said it was ownership paperwork and not something I needed to worry about. I believed him because believing him hurt less than asking why. In 2020, Vance Electric started using my journeyman license number on bid packets. At first, I thought that was normal. I was on the jobs, I was doing the work. Then I saw my number on a project I had never touched, a daycare renovation. Tyler had estimated it. Tyler had walked the site. Tyler had signed the proposal. My license number was under Responsible Field Supervisor. I took the packet to Dad. Why is my number on Tyler's daycare job? Because you are a Vance. I did not supervise it. You review his work all the time. Not that job. He leaned back in his chair. Do you want the company to lose bids? I want my license not used on jobs I don't touch. Mom looked up from her desk and said, There she goes again, making the family small. Dad tapped the packet. A license belongs to the family. I said, No, a license belongs to the person who can lose it. He stared at me for a long time. Then he said, Careful, Lee. The daycare job failed inspection 3 times. Guess whose name was on the correction notice? That became proof beat number 3. I started keeping copies. Not originals. I was not stupid. I scanned bid packets, inspection notices, change orders, and emails. I sent them to a private address no one knew about. I took photos of whiteboards. I saved voicemail messages. I saved Tyler's texts asking, what size breaker for Unit 6 again, on jobs where he had listed himself as lead. I did not know what I was building yet. I just knew I needed a wall between my memory and their version of events. In 2021, I tried again for the master exam. To sit for it, I needed verified hours, documented continuing education, and my application fee. I mailed everything by certified mail from a post office 20 minutes away from the shop. I kept the receipt. 3 weeks later, the board emailed me. Incomplete application, missing employer verification. I called the board. The clerk, a woman named Denise, said, We received an employer letter, but it states your hours are disputed. I almost dropped the phone. Disputed by who? Paul Vance. My father. He had signed my hours years before. He had used my license on company bids. Now he was telling the state my hours were disputed. I asked for a copy. Denise said she could only release it through a records request. I filed one that afternoon. The letter arrived 9 days later. It was on Vance's electric letterhead. It said I had performed mixed administrative and field duties, and that my hours may not meet the standard for independent technical qualification. It was signed by my father. My mother notarized it. I sat in my car outside the post office and read it until the words stopped making sense. That night, Dad asked me to work late on a warehouse outage. I said no. He said, Excuse me. I saw the letter. Mom froze. Tyler looked at his plate. Dad wiped his mouth with a napkin. I told the truth. You used my license on bids for a year. That does not mean you are ready to be master. No, it means you want the benefit without the risk. His face changed. Watch your mouth. Mom said, Lee, this is exactly why we worry. You get emotional. I said, You notarized a lie. She stood up. I notarized your father's professional judgment. Tyler muttered, It's not like you were going to run the company. I looked at him. What does that mean? No one answered. That silence was the midpoint of my life, even if I did not know it yet, because until then I thought they were holding me back out of old-fashioned favoritism. Son over daughter, golden child over workhorse, ugly but simple. It was not simple. It was money. The next morning, I went to the old plan cabinet with Grandpa's brass key tag. I do not know why. Maybe I wanted to feel close to him. Maybe I wanted to see if he had left some note telling me I was not crazy. The cabinet was in the back storage room behind 2 broken conduit racks. It had not been opened in years. The key stuck halfway. I had to wiggle it. Inside were rolled plans, old permits, equipment manuals, and a locked metal document box. The document box had a combination lock. I tried Grandpa's birth year. Nothing. I tried the year the company started. 1978. It opened. Inside was a manila envelope with my name on it. Leah, if they make you ask twice. My hands went cold. I opened it. There were 3 things inside. A letter from Grandpa, a copy of a trust amendment, and a business succession clause. Grandpa's letter was 1 page. Leah, if you are reading this, someone has probably told you to stand behind Tyler. Do not. Vance Electric survives through skill, not last names. I put the shop building and 51% of the operating shares into a trust. They transfer to you when you become a master electrician, if you do it before your 33rd birthday. If you do not, the building stays in trust and the company must lease it at market rate. No transfer to Tyler without board approval. I gave copies to Paul and Marlene. I told them to give you yours when you became a journeyman. If they did not, that is on them. You earned your place before anyone offered it. Grandpa. I read the letter on the concrete floor, beside a stack of old breaker panels. Then I read the trust amendment. It was real, signed, witnessed, filed. The attorney was Russell Klein, Klein and Porter Business Law. The condition was not marriage. It was not a birthday trap in the romantic sense. It was professional. Become a licensed master electrician before age 33. Prove active field experience. Maintain good disciplinary standing. Then the trust released the controlling shop building interest and the majority operating shares to me. My 33rd birthday was 8 months away. For 11 years, my parents had known. For 11 years, my father delayed my applications, disputed my hours, let my course registration disappear, and used my license when it helped Tyler. My mother handled the mail, notarized the letters, and smiled at me over dinner like she had not built the wall herself. I called Russell Klein from the storage room. He answered on the 2nd ring. Klein. My name is Lee Vance. I found an envelope from Arthur Vance. He went quiet. Then he said, I have been waiting for this call. His office was above a pharmacy on Mercer Street. Nothing fancy. No high windows. No cream stationery. Just old carpet, framed licenses, and a receptionist who gave me water because my hands were shaking. Russell was in his late 60s. Short, direct, with reading glasses on a cord. He opened a file the size of a brick. Your grandfather was worried they would bury this, he said. They did. I suspected. Why didn't you contact me? He took off his glasses. The trust allowed contact once you became a journeyman or at 25. I sent 3 certified letters. All 3 were signed for at the company office. He showed me the receipts. 2015, signed by Marlene Vance. 2018, signed by Marlene Vance. 2021, signed by Marlene Vance. I stared at my mother's signature. Proof beat number 4. Russell slid another paper across the desk. Arthur asked me to monitor the public license records. I saw your journeyman license. Then I saw the disciplinary notices from jobs you did not appear to supervise. They used my number. I know. Can they stop me from becoming master? They can try, but they already made a mistake. He opened another folder. Inside was a board complaint filed against me 2 months earlier. I had never seen it. It alleged that I had misrepresented my experience, abandoned jobs, and attempted to claim responsibility for company work I had not performed. The complainant was Tyler. My brother had signed it. My father had attached the disputed hours letter. My mother had notarized the packet. I did not cry. I think my body was too tired for it. I said, they filed a complaint against my license. Russell nodded. If the board opened discipline before your master application, you would not qualify for the trust transfer until the complaint closed. And if it stayed open past my birthday, the shares would remain locked. Your father would keep operating control through the lease. There it was, the bigger betrayal. They were not only delaying me, they were trying to put a stain on my record so the trust could not transfer. I said, what do we do? Russell smiled for the first time. We let records talk. The next 3 months were quiet and ugly. I moved out of my apartment above the shop. I rented a 1-bedroom across town with bad water pressure and a parking spot I had to shovel myself. I stopped eating Sunday dinner at my parents' house. I stopped fixing Tyler's estimates. I stopped answering after-hours calls unless they were in writing. My father left voicemails. You are hurting the company. You are embarrassing your mother. You think a piece of paper makes you bigger than the family. Then the sentence again. A license belongs to the family. I saved every voicemail. I kept working enough hours to stay current, but I took side jobs under another contractor, Bayline Mechanical, whose owner, Ron Patel, had known Grandpa. Ron made me document every task. He signed daily logs. He gave me copies before I asked. Arthur told me years ago you were the real electrician over there, Ron said. I said, he said that. More than once. Ron became proof beat number 5. Mr. Delgado, my old prep instructor, gave me the cancellation record from 2019. It listed the caller's number, Vance Electric Main Line. Denise at the board sent my records request. It showed my 2016 withdrawal had been submitted by fax from the company office. The fax header said VANCE Electric Admin. Proof beat number 6. A supplier named Jean Kessler sent copies of bid packets where Tyler used my license number without my signature. She included emails from Tyler saying, "Use Lee's number until mine comes through. Dad says it is family internal." Tyler did not have a license coming through. He had failed the journeyman exam twice and stopped trying. Proof beat number 7. The board investigator assigned to my complaint was Lorna Pike. She was calm in a way that made loud people nervous. She did not smile much. She asked exact questions. Did you authorize your license number on the daycare renovation? No. Did you supervise the Lindell Apartments panel replacement? No. Did you withdraw your 2016 exam application? No. Did your mother have access to company fax and mail? Yes. Did your father dispute your hours after previously verifying them? Yes. She wrote everything down. At the end of the first interview, she said, "Ms. Vance, do not contact your family about this complaint." I wasn't planning to. Good, let them send what they send. They sent plenty. My mother emailed Lorna a character statement saying I had always struggled with resentment toward Tyler and often exaggerated my contribution to fieldwork. She attached 3 photos of Tyler in a hard hat. One was from a Halloween party. Lorna asked if I could identify the job site. I said, "That is my cousin's garage. The pumpkin bucket is cropped out." She did not laugh. She just marked the page. My father sent a spreadsheet of my alleged hours. It cut out every weekend shift, every emergency call, every field day where Tyler was listed as project lead, but I was the one on site. Ron sent his logs. Jean sent delivery signatures. The city sent permit inspection sign-ins. My name was on dozens. Quiet records beat loud stories. In March 2026, 1 month before my 33rd birthday, the board dismissed Tyler's complaint against me. Not only dismissed, reversed. They opened a separate investigation into Vance Electric for license misuse, false complaint filing, and unqualified supervision on permitted jobs. I sat in Russell's office when the letter came through. He read it once, handed it to me, and said, "There is your practical weather report. Storm moving away from you and toward them." I laughed for the first time in weeks. But I still had to pass the master exam. I took it on March 19 at a testing center by the airport. 4 hours, code book, calculations, motors, load sizing, grounding, business law. My hands shook during the first 10 questions, then my training took over. When the screen showed pass, I stared at it until the proctor said, "Ma'am." I said, "Can I print that?" She smiled. "Already doing it." I held the paper like it might disappear. I sent a photo to Russell, Ron, Ms. Warren, and Mr. Delgado. Then, against my better judgment, I sent it to my parents. My father did not reply. My mother replied 12 minutes later. This is not the time to make things harder for Tyler. No congratulations, no pride, no even fake little heart emoji. Just Tyler. That night, Tyler texted me. You need to come to the renewal meeting next week and tell them there was a misunderstanding. Dad says they might suspend us. I replied, there was no misunderstanding. He wrote, don't be dramatic, we all used what we had. I did not answer. The State Electrical Board scheduled my license presentation and Vance Electric's compliance review for the same public meeting on April 2. That was not my idea. Lorna said it was efficient because the records overlapped. My mother called it a setup. You are letting strangers shame your own family, she said. I did not file a false complaint. Tyler was scared. Of what? Of losing everything Grandpa built. I said, then he should have learned the work. She made a small sound, like I had slapped her. Your grandfather wanted unity. No, I said, he wanted skill. She hung up. The meeting was at the Hudson County Trade Center. Not a courtroom, not a wedding hall. A licensing auditorium with gray chairs, fluorescent lights, and a long table for the board. There were contractors, inspectors, apprentices, union reps, company owners, and a few family members there for license presentations. 58 people signed in. More came late. I arrived with Russell at 8:15. He wore a plain navy suit and carried one black binder. I wore black slacks, a white blouse, and the cleanest work boots I owned. Grandpa's brass key tag was in my pocket. Ron Patel came. Ms. Warren came, even though she had retired 2 years earlier. Mr. Delgado sat 3 rows back with a code book on his lap. Jean Kessler from the supply house sat near the aisle. Denise from the board was at the clerk table. My family arrived at 8:42. My father wore his good blazer with the Vance Electric pin on the lapel. My mother wore a red coat and her pearl earrings, which meant she expected to be seen. Tyler wore a suit that still had the sleeve tag on it. Mom kissed my cheek like we were close. Do not make today ugly, she whispered. I said, I am not the agenda. She looked at the printed agenda. Item 4, Master License Presentations. Item 7, Compliance Review, Vance Electric LLC. Her mouth tightened. Dad leaned toward me. When they call Item 7, you say the license number use was internal family confusion. No. Leah. No. His jaw moved. A license belongs to the family. I looked at him, really looked at him. Then, why is yours the only name on your card? He stared at me like he did not recognize my voice. At 9:00, the board chair opened the meeting. 3 people received residential contractor approvals. 2 companies renewed specialty licenses. Then they called Master Electrician presentations. I stood with 4 other people. The chair read names. When she said Lee Murray Vance, Ron clapped first. Ms. Warren stood. Mr. Delgado whistled once, sharp and proud. I walked to the front and accepted the certificate. For a moment, it was clean. My name. My license number. My work. Then my mother's phone buzzed. I saw her check it. Her face shifted into the old emergency expression. Tyler leaned over. Dad looked at the screen. Mom stood. I knew before she touched my arm. Tyler's warehouse inspection is going sideways, she whispered. We have to go. I looked down at my certificate. Now. The inspector is threatening to fail him in front of the developer. He needs us. Item 7 is about Vance Electric. Exactly. We need to fix the job before this gets worse. Dad stood too. Come with us, he said. No. Mom's eyes hardened. Tyler needs this renewal more than you need a little certificate. Be useful for once. The people in the row behind us heard her. Jean Kessler looked up. Russell looked at me, but he did not move. I said, "Go." Mom blinked. "What?" "Go help Tyler." Dad narrowed his eyes. "You better not speak against us." I held my certificate with both hands. "You already spoke against me in writing." They left. Not quietly. Dad bumped a chair. Mom walked fast, angry, like I had inconvenienced her by having a state license presentation on the same day Tyler had failed to read a plan. The board continued with the agenda. I sat back down. Russell leaned toward me. "Are you all right?" "No." "Can you continue?" "Yes." Lorna Pike entered at 9:46. She signed in, walked down the center aisle, and sat in my mother's empty seat. Russell moved into Dad's empty seat. They did not ask me. They knew. By 10:13, my parents came back. Tyler came with them, red-faced and sweating. Item 7 had just been called. The chair said, "Compliance review for Vance Electric LLC. Parties please come forward." Dad saw Lorna in his seat. "Excuse me," he said loudly. "You are sitting with my family." Lorna looked up. "Mr. Vance, I am Lorna Pike, investigator for the State Electrical Board. This seat was empty." Mom said, "Those are reserved." Russell turned. "For whom?" Dad's face changed when he saw him. "Russell." Mom looked from Dad to Russell. "You know him?" Russell stood. "Arthur Vance's attorney." Tyler whispered, "What is he doing here?" I stood up with my certificate in my hand. The room had gone quiet. Dad said, "This is a family matter." Lorna opened her folder. "No, sir, this is a licensing matter." The chair asked everyone involved to come to the front table. Dad walked like he was angry enough to win by posture. Mom followed with her purse clutched in both hands. Tyler kept looking at the exit. I sat at the left table with Russell. Lorna sat beside the board clerk. There were at least 60 people in the room by then. Contractors, inspectors, apprentices, people who knew exactly what license fraud meant. The chair said, "We will address complaint number 26114, originally filed by Tyler Vance against Lee Vance, and subsequent compliance findings involving Vance Electric." Tyler tried to speak. The chair raised one hand. "You will have a chance." Lorna began with the complaint. She did not call my parents liars. She did not need to. She read dates. On January 18, Tyler Vance filed a complaint alleging Lee Vance misrepresented field hours. Attached was a letter from Paul Vance disputing Ms. Vance's experience. She placed the letter on the projector. My father's signature filled the screen. Lorna continued. On March 3, 2014, Paul Vance verified 8,420 apprentice hours for Lee Vance. On April 12, 2016, Paul Vance verified journeyman eligibility. On 6 separate bid packets from 2020 through 2025, Vance Electric listed Lee Vance as responsible field supervisor. The next slide showed the bid packets. My license number was highlighted in yellow. People shifted in their seats. Lorna said, "The board finds the disputed hours letter inconsistent with prior employer verification and Vance Electric's own use of Ms. Vance's license." Dad leaned into his microphone. "That was an internal paperwork misunderstanding." Lorna changed the slide. It was Tyler's email to Jean. "Use Lee's number until mine comes through. Dad says it is family internal." Someone in the back whispered, "Wow." Mom's lips went white. Lorna said, "Mr. Tyler Vance, what license were you referring to in this email?" Tyler swallowed. "My journeyman." "Had you applied?" "I was planning to." "Had you passed?" He looked at Dad. The chair said, Answer the question. Tyler said, no. Lorna nodded. So there was no license coming through. Tyler did not answer. Proof beat after proof beat landed without me raising my voice. The 2016 fax withdrawal appeared next. VANCE electric admin at the top. My application withdrawal form below it. The signature was not mine. Lorna said, Ms. Vance denies withdrawing this application. The fax originated from Vance Electric's office line. Mom said, that was 10 years ago. Lorna looked at her. It was 9 years and 7 months ago. The age of the record does not change the fax header. Then came the 2019 course cancellation. Caller number, Vance Electric main line. Mr. Delgado stood when Lorna asked him to confirm the record. He said, Lee paid cash the second time because she told me she did not trust the office anymore. My mother stared at the table. Then came the certified letters from Russell. Lorna did not present those. Russell did. He walked to the microphone with 3 green return receipts. Arthur Vance retained my office to administer a succession trust, he said. Notice letters were sent to Lee Vance in 2015, 2018, and 2021. All 3 were signed by Marlene Vance at the company office. Ms. Vance states she did not receive them. Mom whispered, Paul. Dad did not look at her. Russell placed the trust amendment on the projector. I heard my mother's breath catch. The room read silently. Licensed master electrician before 33rd birthday. Good disciplinary standing. 51% operating shares. Shop building transfer. The chair looked at my father. Mr. Vance, were you aware that Ms. Vance's master license status affected company succession? Dad said, that document is private. That was not my question. He said nothing. Russell said, Arthur Vance gave copies of this amendment to Paul and Marlene Vance in 2014. My office has receipt acknowledgments. He showed them. Dad's signature. Mom's signature. Side by side. That was the moment the room understood motive. Not favoritism. Not confusion. Control. My father tried one last time. Lee has always been unstable about Tyler. She takes normal family decisions personally. Ron Patel stood without being asked. The chair said, state your name. Ron Patel, owner of Bayline Mechanical. Briefly. Ron held up a folder. Lee Vance worked under my supervision after leaving Vance Electric field rotation. She documented every day. She is one of the cleanest electricians I have hired in 25 years. If this board is wondering who is unstable, check who filed a complaint with Halloween photos as evidence. A laugh moved through the room before the chair shut it down. Lorna added the photo to the screen. Tyler in a hard hat, standing beside a folding table with orange paper bats on the wall behind him. The board chair took off her glasses. Mr. Vance, did you submit this as field evidence? Tyler said, Mom handled the attachments. Mom's head snapped toward him. For the first time in my life, the family script split in public. Dad blamed Tyler. Tyler blamed Mom. Mom looked at Dad like he had left her standing in traffic. And I just sat there, hands folded, while their own paper trail did what my voice never could. The chair called a 10-minute recess. No one moved at first. Then the room erupted into low talk. Jean came over and squeezed my shoulder. Ms. Warren hugged me. Mr. Delgado said, you kept copies, good girl. Then he corrected himself. Good electrician. I laughed because I needed to. Across the room, my parents argued in whispers. Tyler looked like he might throw up. Dad kept pointing at Russell. Mom kept saying, you told me it would not come to this. That sentence gave me more peace than any apology would have in that moment. You told me it would not come to this. So she had known. When the board came back, the chair read the findings. My license was confirmed in good standing. Tyler's complaint was dismissed with prejudice. Vance Electric was placed under emergency compliance review. The company could not submit bids using my license number, effective immediately. All active permits listing my number required written confirmation from me or reassignment to a valid supervising license holder within 10 business days. Tyler was referred for unlicensed practice review. My father was referred for false verification and license misuse. My mother's notarized disputed hours letter was referred to the county clerk's notary division. The room was silent except for the clerk typing. Then the chair said, "Ms. Vance, congratulations on your master license." That was it. No speech, no standing ovation, no screaming. Just a state board chair saying the truth out loud while my parents sat 10 feet away. It was enough. After the meeting, Dad came toward me in the hallway. His face was red. "You think you won." Russell stepped half a step forward. I touched his sleeve. "I can answer." Dad stopped. I said, "I think the board read the records." Mom was crying, but not the kind of crying that asks what you need. The kind that asks everyone to look at her. "Lee, we were trying to protect the company. You filed a false complaint against my license." Tyler was scared. Tyler is 30 and still using my number. Tyler said, "You don't have to say it like that." I looked at him. How should I say it? He had no answer. Dad lowered his voice. "If this trust transfers, the company is finished." Russell said, "No. If the trust transfers, the building has an owner who can read a code book." Dad pointed at him. "Stay out of my family." Russell looked bored. I tried. Your signatures kept pulling me back in. Mom turned to me. "Please, do not take the building." There it was, not "I am sorry," not "we hurt you," not "you earned it." "Do not take the building." I said, "Grandpa already gave it to me. You just hid the mail." She covered her mouth. Dad said, "Arthur never meant for you to use this against us." I pulled the brass key tag from my pocket. He wrote, "If they make you ask twice." Dad stared at the tag. For 1 second, he looked less angry and more afraid. Good. The practical receipt came 9 days later. Russell called me at 8:04 in the morning. "Check your email." I opened it at my tiny kitchen table. There were 3 attachments. First, my official master electrician license card. Second, the recorded dismissal of Tyler's complaint. Third, the trust transfer notice. The shop building and 51% operating shares of Vance Electric had transferred to me as trustee owner under Arthur Vance's amendment. I read the 3rd attachment twice. Then I drove to the warehouse. My father was not there. My mother was in the office, boxing files because the compliance monitor had requested originals. She looked up when I walked in. "What are you doing here?" I placed a copy of the transfer notice on the counter. "Changing the locks on the plan cabinet." Her face folded. "Leah." "No." She started crying again. I said, "You can cry, you cannot touch the files." I walked past her into the back storage room. The old cabinet was still there, dusty, dented, mine. Ron met me an hour later with a locksmith and a new inventory log. Jean sent updated supplier account forms. Russell filed notice with the state and the company insurer. By 5 p.m., Vance Electric could not pull a permit without the compliance monitor and me signing off. That was not revenge. That was risk control. Tyler texted me that night. "I know you're mad, but Dad is losing it. Can you just let him keep the office?" I replied, "He can lease it at market rate if the compliance monitor approves." Tyler wrote, "That's cold." I typed 3 different responses and deleted all of them. Then I wrote, "So was using my license." He did not answer. The emotional receipt came the following Sunday. Ms. Warren invited me to the county technical school. She said the electrical program was doing a small career panel and asked if I could talk to the students. I almost said no. I did not feel like a role model. I felt like a tired woman with a license card and a family in pieces. But I went. There were 23 students in the lab, 6 girls. One of them stood near the back with her arms crossed, trying to look like she did not care. I knew that posture. Ms. Warren introduced me as Master Electrician Lee Vance. No one in that room knew what those words had cost. I talked about apprenticeships, hours, documentation, and not letting anyone else handle your license paperwork without copies. I told them a license is not a family favor. It is a public trust with your name on it. Afterward, the girl from the back came up to me. She said, "My uncle says girls don't stay in electrical." I said, "Your uncle is not the licensing board." She smiled. Then Ms. Warren handed me a small cardboard box. "Arthur gave this to me years ago," she said. "He said if you ever came back here as master, I should give it to you." I opened it in the lab, where I had learned to wire my first practice panel. Inside was Grandpa's old voltage tester, yellow casing, scratched screen, the one he carried for 20 years. There was a note folded under it. "Lee, tools do not care who believes in you. They work when your hands know what to do. I believe in your hands." Grandpa. That is when I finally cried. Not in the boardroom, not in front of my parents, not when I found the trust papers. I cried in a trade school lab with fluorescent lights overhead and students pretending not to watch. Because the person who built the company had seen me clearly the whole time. It has been 7 weeks since the board meeting. Vance Electric is still open, but it is smaller. The city froze 2 maintenance contracts until the compliance review ends. Tyler is not allowed to act as supervisor on permitted jobs. My father still has his license for now, but the false verification review is active. My mother's notary commission is suspended pending hearing. I did not move into the big office. I kept Grandpa's little office by the storage room, metal desk, bad chair, old calendar hook still in the wall. I put my master license on the shelf, not behind the desk. I want apprentices to see it when they come in. Ron says I should rename the company. Maybe I will. For now, I changed one thing on the front door. It used to say, Vance Electric. Paul Vance, Master Electrician. Now it says, Vance Electric. Lee Vance, Master Electrician. The first morning after the new lettering went up, I stood across the street with coffee in my hand and looked at it for a full minute. No music played, no crowd clapped, no one apologized. But a delivery driver walked up with a clipboard and said, "Are you Lee? Need your signature." My signature. Not my father's. Not Tyler's. Mine. My mother has called 6 times. I listened to one voicemail. "Lee, I know you think we were against you. We were just trying to hold the company together. Your father put so much pressure on me. I should have given you the letters, I know that. But you have to understand, Tyler was not ready and your father was terrified. Please call me." I saved it. Not because it healed anything, because it was another record. My father has not apologized. He sent one text. Arthur would be ashamed. I replied with a photo of Grandpa's note. He did not respond. Tyler asked if I would sign off on his hours if he started over properly. I told him yes, if he logged real hours under a supervisor who was not me, passed the exam himself, and stopped asking women to clean up his messes. He called me bitter. Maybe I am. But bitter does not mean wrong. People love to tell you not to keep score. Usually the people saying it are the ones already winning by 20 points. I kept score because I had to. Every canceled exam, every missing letter, every fake emergency, every time my mother made Tyler's panic bigger than my future. Every time my father said a license belonged to the family when what he meant was my work belonged to him. The board did not care who cried. The board cared who signed what. That saved me. I still have the blue notebook. The first pages are teenage handwriting and old hurt. The last page has 3 lines. March 19, 2026. Passed master exam. April 2, 2026. Board dismissed complaint. April 11, 2026. Grandpa's trust transferred. Under that, I taped the brass key tag. Number 14. The old plan cabinet opens with a new lock now, but I keep the tag anyway. It reminds me that Grandpa gave me a key before I knew there was a door. Last week, Ms. Warren sent me a picture from the career panel. I am standing in front of the practice boards with my sleeves rolled up, holding Grandpa's voltage tester. The girl whose uncle said women do not stay in electrical is standing beside me. She enrolled in the fall program. That was the emotional receipt I did not know I needed. Not my parents saying they were proud. Not Tyler admitting I was right. Not a big speech in a room full of people. A girl looking at me like the job had room for her because I had refused to leave. So if you have a record, keep it. If someone keeps moving your finish line, write down who moved it and when. If your family calls you selfish for protecting the one thing with your name on it, ask yourself why they need your name so badly. Because my father was wrong. A license does not belong to the family. A license belongs to the person who can lose it. And for 11 years, they were willing to let me lose mine so Tyler could pretend he had earned his. Now the certificate is on my wall. The building keys are in my pocket. Grandpa's tester is on my desk. And every morning when I unlock that warehouse, I do it with my own name on the door.